Richmond meeting order, November 4th, 2020. Everybody please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody tonight. Our first item up is our open public forum. Anybody not on the agenda wishing to address the council? Seeing nobody here, we will move on to item 3, approval of the agenda for this evening. I believe there is no corrections.
The only thing I would like to add underneath council reports would be Tri-City Cable. We can do it letter D.
Letter E?
D.
D. Oh,
Yep.
Under number
council reports,
13.
yeah.
Yep, under 13, yeah.
Okay.
That would be my only thing.
With that addition,
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with that change.
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of meeting minutes from October 7th and October 15th, 2020. Any questions or comments on the minutes? If not, I look for a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approval of bills paid. Anything in there that catches your eyes? If not, I look for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Consent agenda for this evening, resolution 163-20, approval of October 2020 journal entries. Item B is resolution 164-20, approval of donations and contributions for October 2020, which is $1,500 from the Richmond Lions Club for the park. Excuse me. Resolution 165-20, approval of hiring a seasonal worker for River Lake Civic Arena ice season. Item D is acceptance of People Services October 2020 report. Item E is acknowledgement of People Services 2019 and 2020 maintenance refund. With that said, any questions on the consent agenda?
Yes.
Pat?
I thought earlier this year we gave okay to seasonal staff.
Yep,
That seems to be a problem, or what?
with the concessions, Kevin shorted himself a person. This is somebody once Kevin started doing games and scheduling, we shorted ourselves one person for concessions. This is somebody we had last year, trained, and we're just bringing them back from the last year.
So you
Just to
felt
kind
you needed another person.
Yep, he just ended up realizing once the schedule got put in place, we needed one more person.
Need somebody back there to?
Yep.
Yep.
So,
If there's no other questions, I'd like to make a motion to accept it.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Item number 7, 2021 street projects. Mr. Dave Blomo.
All right, good evening.
Hey, Steven.
Have a nice shiny new map in front of you guys tonight. Looking for the 2021 street project. It's kind of a moving target since we started looking at this thing back in 2018. Changes you'll note. First Street Northeast from Lyon Avenue to Maple Avenue. We changed that one to a street-only portion of that project. It turns out the sewer was in good condition on that one after we found the televising. We don't think we actually need to replace it on that stretch. Likewise on First Street Southeast, west of Maple, between Maple and Lyon. That sewer was actually it was installed as an option for the contractor to do PVC or clay pipe. He chose PVC. It's really the first iteration of PVC I've seen. It's not a PVC, it's a different plastic. It's a white pipe that you don't see a lot put in the ground. It seems to be holding up okay. We initially had it on there because the first reports said we had some roots and that kind of thing. They don't seem real bad. They seem pretty manageable for that age of pipe. So we actually have taken that one off. But one thing, when I'm starting to remove sewer from here, unfortunately that's where a lot of our funding is coming from. We were using sewer as a means to get some of our streets paid for. As we remove sewers, like when we did Main Street with the county, we took a chunk of sewer off and there went some of our grant funds. We took care of some of that stuff on FER. Now granted, the FER was just a patch to get rid of that service. But if that comes off the project, that becomes a street only over there, then we lost a little bit more of our grant need by just going to losing some of our sewers. So that's the kind of trade-offs we're making here is as we've picked off some of these little projects here and there and done them as patches, we've unfortunately, to some extent, taken some of our grant funds away because our grant funds are going to be sewer-based. Our water debt just doesn't warrant additional money, whereas our sewer debt, as we all know, is extensive. And that sewer debt is what's got us grants. So our funding picture with rural development has changed slightly since because we've taken a few blocks of sewer off. And once we decide and talk about moving this forward, we'll have to reconvene those discussions with USDA and see where they stand on their funding allocation to see if we still have funds in. So if we were to move forward with this project today, this is the project I recommend. If we want to go through individual neighborhoods and prioritize them, we can do that. I can answer questions about individual segments. I can answer questions of the project as a whole. Certainly, it's just one of the things we need to keep this on the list, keep it moving because we're having problems in some of these areas, and I don't want to see them get worse.
Well, I think, David, we also know that one of the biggest concerns, if you're actually looking at from an importancy standpoint, people from County Road 9 over to Elm Avenue, those were the ones that we actually annexed into the city a few years ago or more, and we kind of sat back and we promised them, that things would get done on this particular road. And I think if the worst case scenario came to be that we couldn't take care of all of these particular importancies of these particular areas that you highlighted, I think for sure that stretch has to be done.
So if you were to...
I'm looking, in 2020 for sure, that has to be done. We cannot delay that anymore than what we have. Just my feeling. I don't know about what the council thinks and everything too.
Well, if you were to quiz me, Mike, that would have been my first choice as well.
Right, okay.
Is that, I call it the church/school neighborhood there.
Yeah.
That's a priority because of the promises we made to those residents,
Yeah.
The annex residents. Thankfully, at this time, we haven't had the issue yet where they had a failing septic and we want to connect today.
Yeah.
And we
Right.
kind of lucked out as far as that goes. So
Okay.
I would agree that's area number one. Priority area number two for me would be First Street Southeast, and that's because of the sewer backups we've had down there. It's not in good shape. The sewer's in tough shape. The televising indicated that those west two blocks on either side of King Avenue are really rough.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Those are the areas, and streetwise, we know that's bad too.
Right.
The street is the part that's easy to see. It's the underneath the ground that's what I'm coming here to tell you. It's not good.
Right.
So that would be priorities 1 and 2. Mr. Evans?
Yes, I just got a question. The ones that you have labeled for sanitary sewer,
Yes, sir.
has it all been, if it's there, there's some that I know is not there in Second Street, correct? Has it all been televised?
The vast majority of it was, yes. There's one block between First Street Southeast and Main Street on King. That was not. There's no services on that block, and it's a 15-inch sewer that had given us no problem, so we didn't put the money into televising it. Everything else has been televised recently.
What street was that again?
King Avenue, between First Street Southeast and Main Street, Pat.
There's no street turn in there, correct?
No, that's Lion.
That's Lion, that's missing the street.
Line, excuse me.
Yep.
King was there with Lion.
Yep. So yes, everything else has been televised. That area, if you would, for lack of a better term, the yellow cross in the middle of the page there, tough shape. That's old 4-inch clay, Almonds edition, 1919. So I mean, some of that stuff's pretty old. I mean, granted, that sewer wasn't 1919, that's when it was platted. But we actually had a backup waiting to happen there, where a root ball was caught on in a protruding sewer service. And thankfully, we actually got that thing pushed through when we did the televising. Bought us some time on that guy, otherwise we would have had another potential.
It was late.
It was there, now we know about it, now we can keep an eye on it. You're probably not going to get a jetter through there because that sewer service is protruding 2.5, 3 inches into the main. And it's a known problem, but it's not as, it's worse than we thought it was. So
Pat,
that,
that's a whole street west of your mother's.
Yeah, I understand that.
so you know what you're talking about. Okay.
Now, since it's all been televised, we shouldn't have any problem if we have a public hearing that the individuals can see how tough them pipes are.
Yeah.
So if they have to be assessed.
Yeah, we can absolutely show photos. Yep,
Okay, that's just some backup that I would like.
yep.
The second thing is, I see on the 3rd Street Southeast, you have street only. Since we just put a Band-Aid in that area, we didn't know when we were going to get to it. We're not going to do an area, that's the area that backed up, correct?
We're talking 3rd Street Southwest.
Southwest, did I say
Oh,
southeast, excuse
certainly,
me?
Yes. Yeah, so I had it on here as, because we fixed that problem, I just took it off entirely. And I thought, no, I wanted to at least draw your attention to it, so I switched it to street only. Because in theory, you know, we talked about the pipe, the sewer pipe being in fairly good condition for being a clay pipe. And now we can line it in the future. That was a discussion we had at council meeting. So,
We requested that to be televised after the repair. Has that been done?
we haven't had a televising crew in town. We could throw it on the list for next year when we have somebody. I don't think it would be a necessary or cost-effective
We
way
were
to
just
have.
wondering if it was done, if everything was in line after the repair. That's what we were looking at being televised for, and that was, I believe, 2 meetings ago.
Okay, well, you know what, I would say that having somebody come up paying mobilization for that stretch of pipe when we know it was open cut and, you know, city staff saw it open cut, that's a pretty reliable way of knowing that the repair was done properly. Now, is it crazy to have it televised? Absolutely not. But I think it's cost effective to wait until spring, knowing that that was open cut repaired, that I think you're okay till spring.
The purpose of the question was basically, before we put tar on it, to make sure that that pipe is perfect in the ground. You know, and that's what I'm saying is that we're not going to get to this until spring or midsummer
Correct.
anyway.
Yes, no, and that's a perfectly valid thing to do, is let's check that pipe, absolutely.
That's what I'm saying, is to
Yes.
double check it, everything's in alignment, but with backfilling and tamping it and everything else, you don't know.
Yep, and honestly, I'd rather wait till spring, let it freeze thaw anyway, see if anything changes.
See if there's any expansion or whatever.
Yep, settlement is always a concern. Granted, not as much in Richmond as it is elsewhere with our lovely sandy soils, but it still is a concern. So, yes, I would think that would be a worthwhile pursuit for sure.
Okay.
So Gordy and I were chatting also about other items on the list. He's going to talk later about some seal coating, and I think that's a heck of a good idea to throw in either with this project or outside of this project. We are going to look and evaluate the water main on First Street North, given a hydrant failure last year. It is cast iron pipe from the mid-1970s, so it's almost 50-year-old pipe. Granted, cast iron in soils that are good and, you know, of appropriate size, it's 6-inch, so that's okay. I'm not out to switch on 6-inch pipes if I don't have to. But that's another pipe that it's a little questionable. So as we move on, we're going to need to make a decision on that guy too. I really hate to put a brand new street over the top of a 50-year-old pipe.
Right.
But at the same time, if we can save ourselves the money by not replacing it. That one's on the fence, so things to be considered in the future, but again, in the interest of keeping costs down right now, it's not showing. Tim?
No, I'm just,
Oh, you're just doing math in your head.
yeah, I'm just
Check.
thinking myself in my pen here.
Okay, well,
Yep.
so as far as the process goes to assess this, we would need to rehold that public hearing, especially since we sent the letter saying, you know, the project is off as is. We rehold an assessment hearing, and then we can move forward with the project. The reports are all done. It's a matter of, we'll probably update them briefly, but again, the reports are done. It's a matter of accepting that again and ordering the assessment hearing. So things could move a little quicker than it has in the past, since all the pre-work is done. But that being said, it's probably something we need to hash out a little more and define the project, but now's the time.
Where do we stand on funding and money?
Not enough.
Well, we know
Is
that.
the easy way to say it. So, So as we talked earlier, I briefly mentioned that we've kind of shot ourselves in the foot a little bit with the sewer, doing some of the repairs and losing some of our grant funds. USDA will still provide us grant funds associated with our sewer as much as we can do.
Okay.
As far as I know, last year we kind of pursued a grant with Deed, $600,000 through their small cities program. That is something we could look into for next year as well. It is going to be an uphill battle with the survey needed. And then also, once we do that, it will somewhat jeopardize our USDA funding because they see grant funds coming from another source as their grant funds aren't needed. So we'll have to wrestle through that. We'll get USDA in here, get Brent up here, we can chat through that as well with us and make sure we're all on board. But so needless to say, our funding is kind of how it always has been. Unfortunately, it hasn't gotten better.
Some of that will do that deal with the residents participating in that.
Yep. And I would look
What
at
do we need, about 60%?
I think that's what it is, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, we need those 60% to be low to moderate income is what we need.
Okay.
I mean, that, we definitely need those, this time around, to get this, and it's, otherwise it's gonna come on the taxpayers' dime all the
Well,
way
then
through.
you're gonna have to assess every single person that's
Yep.
on those particular projects.
And then it's gonna go to and then come back to the whole city itself,
Exactly.
too.
And then we still need to say that only gets us eligible to apply. It doesn't guarantee us anything.
Right.
So it's just another avenue to explore. I think it's an uphill battle for us, but if you can show that that income in that particular area meets their qualifications, then we absolutely qualify.
It's a battle worth fighting for.
But citywide, we don't.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned 60%, is that of the total project?
Of the
total
project.
sewer project?
Yes, yep,
And then that would be all the property owners along that project, correct?
Yes.
It's not pick and choose so many blocks, this or that,
unfortunately not.
you know.
A targeted approach would certainly be better for us, but no. Everybody that borders the project that would benefit from the project directly.
Correct.
Citywide, there's a citywide benefit, of course, when you start replacing parts of the distribution system and collection system, but this is direct benefit, which is adjacent to. So pretty much anybody that would be invited to the assessment hearing would be asked to participate in that survey.
Well, I think we need to move forward, obviously, with that again and stuff too.
Yes.
We do continually need to get the ball rolling with this, because we do know we have some areas that just need attention. There is no question about it. They just, you can sit and put things off more and more and more and more, but as that continues, things just can continually get worse and worse. And then also you can add in additional things.
Absolutely.
Especially from the standpoint of sewer piping and all of that, that could cause issues and problems. And yeah, we're just, it's just something that we have to do. It's really what it amounts to be. It just has to get done.
We've been through the pain of a backup very recently. It's a recent memory here. And we don't want to do it more than
No,
that.
absolutely. We don't want to do it any more than we need to. Or have to, that's a better word.
Okay. When you apply for this money,
Yes, sir.
do you lock in at the time of application for interest rate? Or
Correct.
at the time of completion?
No, application, or it will drop if it drops. So that's your maximum at the time of when they issue a letter of conditions and the city agrees to that letter of conditions, your interest rate is locked at that point or lower. Right now, the moderate income interest rate for USDA is 2.125%. Given what's going on, I don't see that changing anytime real soon as far as that goes, as far as USDA is concerned.
One of the questions we should be asking ourselves is First Street South and North, are we putting curbs all the way up and down? I know we had this conversation 2 years ago, and you're looking at at that time it was about $500,000 for the two roads, just for those 4 blocks, I believe, or 3 blocks. And we had a lot of conversation, but going around asking people, a lot of people have said they'd rather see a curb come there because they want the water controlled. And if you go drive through there every spring, both of those roads have flooding a lot.
Yeah.
They want the rolling curb.
They want the rolling curb, but they also want the water so it goes down and goes to the storm sewer and
But
disappears.
they don't want this standard, they just want a
They
roll.
want a rolling curb so they can drive over it
Right,
with the
exactly.
lawnmower or whatever. And
But that 500,000 is not just only for curb, that takes care of then the
storm
sewer system
Yeah.
for that.
Yes.
sanitary sewer.
Yeah, storm sewer and then added width, because we gotta go to at least 32-foot wide road if we're gonna do that. To put curb and gutter on either side of the 24 is a pretty scary proposition. As far as you get a little snow there, now you don't have a passable roadway. So, as we've done in the past, we've used the V-style barrier curb to high curb. I'm entirely open to a drive over curb. Doesn't matter to me one way or the other. They both work equally well for controlling water. And that's my main goal for using them, is controlling that stormwater.
Well, that would make it a big difference on the assessment to the people if we add on 500. I'm using that term,
Sure.
500,000, it could be a lot less.
That's a fair number.
Yeah.
Magnitude, order of magnitude, it's approximately right.
And that probably should be brought out and seen what the taxpayers say at the time, at the breakdown of the public hearing. If they want to go and spend the extra so many $1,000s per lot, or not.
So I would actually encourage us as a council to figure out what that impact on each property owner is, and pick a way to propose it first, instead of leaving it open-ended for the meeting.
Yep.
Just because it's a better way to get feedback. So, but I'm with you that the people need to know the impact of adding that curb and gutter. Jim is correct. I have actually heard from people as well that they've asked for it, said if you're going to do it, please do it right.
Okay.
I've heard that from several, at least 2 or 3 residents on here. So yes, I just like at the last meeting, you could sell me either way on it as to whether it's needed or not. I personally, I like to use it just because it defines the roadway, it lets us control stormwater, and it just gives us a whole lot better lasting curb, because a lasting roadway, because anytime you have a paved edge that's not consolidated by a curb, that edge just tends to break off. And you'll see that anywhere you have rural sections. It's just a common problem, and put a decent shoulder on there and it'll help, but we certainly don't have that now.
The price difference between a rolling curve and an 8-inch curve is what, 20%, 10%?
Couple bucks a foot, yeah.
Because I believe the only place we have rolling curves are in the addition in the west end of town.
I believe you are correct. But again, they both function equally well for stormwater purposes, so as far as I'm concerned, I'll deal with either one.
From what I'm hearing from the residents, they prefer the rolling over the standard curb because they want it. I mean, and that's it. If they don't get the rolling, they prefer not to have it at all.
Right. And give them my choice.
That's what's coming out of First Street.
Yeah, and give them my choice that either have it or don't. If the people want it, let's give it to them. It's a better product, there's no doubt.
Yep.
So a timeline on some pricing on for us, would that be by our next meeting or not, or are we looking December time? Money?
When is your next meeting is?
19th of November.
I could probably update cost estimates by then.
I mean, obviously, we probably won't make a decision, but at least we can throw the numbers around and talk about them.
Yeah, since the estimates are all more or less complete, it's matter of me updating them. I mean, they're 2 years old at this point. Put some new dollars on them and then figure out what that current number is. That'll be the key here for me, so.
Does that sound like a plan moving forward?
Yep.
Come back with some
Move forward.
numbers and see where we're at?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Anything else, Dave?
I have nothing.
All right.
Oh, Dave, do you want to touch on the water tower a little bit?
Oh, sure, water tower. That would be another thing to consider adding to this project is the new tower, the 2002 water tower. Exterior, we've been noticing for a few years there's some spotting on that, on a 20-year-old coating system. That's not surprising. Actually, that's a pretty good coating system for saying it's 20 years old. And we did have some ice damage on the inside of that tower as well. So we are looking at probably a total interior overcoat on the inside and at least a spot repair on the outside, if not an overcoat on the outside. Thankfully, we're talking about modern coating, so we're not talking about sandblasting, containing, everything like that. We should be able to clean it up and just overcoat it. That helps the cost a little bit. In the past, we had about $50,000 worth of spot painting on there. I don't think that's going to get us by. I think we're probably in the 150 range, thereabouts. And that's probably as urgent as any of the other things, especially that interior side of that tower, because as we see more ice every winter, that damage isn't going to get better. So
What about putting a mixer in?
A mixer is probably a good idea to prevent that ice. There are so many varieties of mixers now. We have options as far as you can go from anywhere from 5,000 to 25,000 on those things. And it's just a matter of what kind of technology you want. I would say the ones that I'd recommend are in that 15,000 range.
Does Minnesota Department of Health still have grants out there for that type of equipment?
Their $10,000 equipment grant. When was the last one we had? Was it for the well sealing?
Yes.
Yes.
That was the last one. I don't honestly know if that program will cover a mixer or not, but it'd be worth thinking about for sure.
Yeah, I think we should.
Absolutely. Because that's a pretty fairly, it's a fairly easy program as far as if you haven't gotten money from them recently and you spent your money last time, they like to give you more. Yeah, that'd probably be well worth it, kind of independent of the project, quite honestly.
It would help prevent future ice issues
Yeah.
that we have.
Yeah.
And we'll be giving the council a more extensive breakdown of what the tower's results were, a lot of the pictures and such, but there was extensive ice damage in the inside.
So you're talking a mixer to go inside so we don't have the ice problem?
Yep, so yeah, it's basically, for lack of a better term, it's a propeller that goes up in the tank. There's a couple styles. There's one that's an air bubbler. That just basically sends bursts of air periodically to break them up. The nice thing about that is it's fairly cheap, it's easy to deal with, but at the same time, it doesn't actually give you a mixing benefit like with a mixer that's up in the tower, which is basically just a propeller that moves the water around. You see some benefit in the summer with that too. Whereas that bubbler would serve you no benefit in the summer whatsoever. It prevents your winter damage, but I'm thinking if you're gonna put something in, get something you can use year round. But something to look at, certainly something to consider, and Tessa's idea of the MDH grants for that is well worth pursuing.
Anything else? Any questions? Come back with some numbers or whatever.
I will chase down some numbers for you, absolutely.
Sounds great.
Anything else for Dave? Thanks, Dave.
Yep.
Moving on to item number 7, the water treatment plant easement. In your packet, you have an access easement for 2 members of our community. They own the property that's beginning of a road to go to our water plant. And finding out there's nothing in writing that states the city has the right to use it. They're offering to give us an easement as long as we pay for the processing of the easement.
This is along the tracks, is that what it is?
Yeah, it's just north of the tracks, or the trail.
Yeah, the road's already there, we've been operating it for years.
They wanna put their house for sale, and this is one of the things that came up that stopping them from being able to put their house for sale. Cause there's nothing in writing that states the city has the authority to go across there.
We will be working with the other 2 properties that are involved with this area, but to speed up the process for them to get their house on the market, we're just gonna do this property right now, and get the other paperwork rolling for the other 2 properties. Adam, our city attorney, did a title search that goes back at least about 40 years, and he couldn't find anything. We had Dan Crone at O'Malley and Crone going back on things, he couldn't find anything. So, we figured it's probably a good time to start getting things legally put in place. We're not taking any more road or land than what we're already operating.
Does it say how many feet it is?
The survey's back here, it's not equal all the way across. It's a little bit thicker in the beginning, gets a little narrow, and then widens up once you get closer to the plant. If I remember right, it's probably 10 to 15 feet wide at the most. And not only that, but the other 2 properties are gonna have to start working with that end property anyways, because they both have sheds back there. And this road is the only way to get to those sheds.
We're talking the one right over here by 9 Casey's, right?
Behind
That one,
Casey's,
look
yep.
up that way.
Right by the trail.
Yep, just wanna double check.
So we just want to make sure that we can continue our use to access our water treatment plant.
We have to.
Actually, the homeowners have already, agreed, they've reviewed it, they have agreed to it and have signed the copy. Just need you guys to approve it so that I can record it tomorrow.
So at this time, I look for a motion to move the access agreement, or that's the easement.
I'll make that motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Go ahead, get it done. All right, let's move on to number 9, the boom truck agreement. Last month, she brought you an agreement with the city of Cold Spring to be able to use their boom truck. And
After talking more with Gordy and Kevin, I know one option that you guys want us to look into is to see if we can make our piece of equipment OSHA standard. Is not possible based on the way that it was manufactured. And also would not be able to be used out on 23 when we're doing the lights out there. If we're gonna be looking at using equipment of our own, we're looking at thousands. So we thought we'd bring this back. Gordy, did you go and get any quotes on some
You're
trucks?
supposed to email me, already on Monday, I've not received an email, I emailed him today, still didn't receive anything. We do look at a piece of equipment, because actually a boom truck, you're talking $25,000 for a boom truck or a bucket truck, to do that. Our problem is on Highway 23, what we do is we typically go into the parking lots here by Jack's, or go on the frontage road by Channel Marines, and we boom across the boulevard to get to the lake, because we don't want to set up nothing on Highway 23, because then we have to have 3 crash trucks up there because of the speed that the traffic is going. So that's how we typically do it. That's when Cold Spring comes up to do that. So that's the only way we're getting lights up on Highway 23 or banners up on 23 if we elect to do that. So sitting on the Highway 23 with a skid loader with a guy in a basket ain't gonna work for us. The boom truck that Cold Spring does have does work for us. They can come up and do it. And the reason for us asking to have this agreement is that way Kevin or myself or Jason are able to go get that piece of equipment, use it, and we are covered under our insurance if something was to happen to us. That way Cold Spring isn't liable for it. We'll be trained on it, just like Cold Spring people are trained on it, everything else, that part, just so we're legal that nobody gets, if somebody wants to get hurt on it, that we don't have any difference between the two cities, it's covered. We're covered under that piece of equipment.
We don't see any money wise.
The only thing, like I explained at the last meeting, that Cold Spring is asking for is $171 to pay for their legal, to draft this agreement. Otherwise, just the insurance of us having, or the cost of the insurance for us.
so when you use it, you're not actually paying them anything?
No.
We're not paying them nothing, we just
It's
use
just as
it.
long as you got the insurance on it?
As long as we got it covered, and that way if somebody gets hurt on it, we're covered by our insurance rather than theirs.
Yep, so we're just looking at that one-time fee for drafting the agreement.
Any other questions? Otherwise, how does the council wish to act?
Well, we gotta do something. Our banners look like crap. They were only about 3 seasons behind. We've got things on our main street that should have been done already and different things, so I make a motion to approve this at this time, but we should probably keep our eyes open into using our own equipment, probably if there's something out there.
I'll second.
Just with one change on the.
Yeah, I changed that when I printed it. That's how I had it last meeting, thinking that we were gonna approve it, Mike would sign it, so.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. CARES Act update.
In your packet, I gave you an update as far as where we're sitting fund-wise. We are about 11 days out from having our money spent. There's just a little over $2,200 left. After talking with Justin a little bit today, our meters came in a little less than what we had first quoted at, so we're looking at maybe getting a few radio reads to have for us. And then also when we get to the Tri-City Cable part, they want to do some upgrades as far as Tri-City Cable with their service system. So the cities, the 3 cities and Wakefield are looking at to see what they have leftovers in their CARES Act to be able to give some to that also. So just to kind of give you an idea where we're sitting and what we're still looking at potentially putting towards. I do not foresee us obviously having anything left over, but just to give you guys an update.
Okay. All right.
Anybody have any questions? All right, we'll move on to Tremendous Night.
So just to give you guys a heads up, I did email you last week, but just a reminder that Tremendous Night did change a little bit. There will not be the parade or activities, but they're still having the Christmas light contest, the coloring contest, and then the Richmond Bucks prize drawing that they'll be doing. But other than that, there'll be no other activities. So more or less just to give you guys a reminder on that.
Then we'll move on to department reports. There will be no verbal report for the police department report, so we'll move on to the fire report for this evening. Jesse?
Good evening, council. Tessa. Fortunately, the printer didn't work tonight, so I gotta read off my phone, so.
It's in the packet, if you wanna open it in the packet.
Even better.
Yeah, it's probably way toward the back,
Second last page.
yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
Alrighty. Crisis diverted. Alright, calls for October. As of the 28th, we had 9 medicals, 1 fire call, and 1 vehicle accident, so a total of 11 calls, so. Last month's training, we had our 44 plan refresher. Topics covered was field triage, hemorrhage controls, how to stop the bleed quicker, special healthcare needs, immunological diseases and infectious diseases, along with trauma triage as well. We had an instructor from Ridgewater come out to put on that refresher course. So, moving on to the truck detail, like I said last month, we looked at replacing a couple things that were getting outdated and broke. Flashlights are replaced in the rescue. We also did rearrange a few of our things to make it more COVID friendly, if you will, to better our response to future COVID calls if we end up getting some. So, the auto eject on the pumper is on order. So we'll be getting that replaced here shortly in the near future. Equipment, the fogger has arrived. It works phenomenal. We've been using it after every call to help disinfect all of our gear and rigs and everything. So, and also, you guys may or may not see already, the washer and dry cabinet has been installed in the hall, and that dryer cabinet, holy balls, it is a heck of a lot bigger than what we thought, so.
It is large.
It's huge, so.
You can even fit that.
Yeah. Other than that, moving on, with that said, we have a couple equipment items that I would like to declare excess equipment, so we can free up some more space if possible. One of them is the old washing machine. It is a 1998 model. And also, when we replaced our rims and tires off of our personnel carrier, we have the stock rims off of that with the tires. So.
And typically we put that in the resolution form.
Okay.
It's better to track that way.
Sure.
So council, whenever, however you want to move forward with that, if you want to do it in a resolution number, and I can write it up with that information, or if you want me to bring the resolution to the workshop, you can review it and approve it at that time. It's up to you guys how you want to move forward.
Just let me know.
We'll address it at our workshop.
Okay.
Okay.
No problem.
Then I will put that as a reminder.
And then moving on, FEMA grant. Unfortunately, we got the sad news that we did not make the cut on that. So obviously we'll be moving forward looking at other options, unfortunately. Other topics, from last month, we participated in fire prevention while practicing social distancing. Went down to Mary Moose daycare and school. Went around having the kids stay at the distance. It was kind of different this year, kind of going around the rigs. We're not really used to keeping distance that far away, but all worked out great. And then we also went up to both the public school and St. Peter and Paul School as well. This year, instead of having all the kids come out at once, they actually came out class by class and just explained to them as a distance again, you know, and I think it worked out well from what we had to work with. So. Also on the 17th of October, some of you seen us, some of you didn't, but we went around, handed out the fire department calendars door to door. I do want to thank all the residents and all the patronage of the donations from that. So again, on behalf of Richmond Fire Relief, we do appreciate that. So moving on, I'd like to open up the application process again to move forward filling our vacant spot on our department. Ideally, I'd want to run it to January of 2021 to see where we're sitting, and we could revisit and extend it if we haven't had much interest in it. And with that, our next fire meeting is the 11th of this month. If any of you would like to join us, please feel free. Other than that, that's all I have. If you guys have any questions, concerns, comments, feel free
You
to share.
have only one opening?
As of right now, yeah.
Do you anticipate any in the first 6 months of 2021?
I can't say, just from my gut feeling, I can almost foresee it happening, that we'd have more vacant openings. So, just from the last hiring process, we were able to hire on one, which he is already half trained. He's still looking at getting into the first responder EMR classes, which is going to be, I believe, the first of next year. Sorry. So.
Mr. Mayor, would you like a motion to have them open up the applications, or what would you like?
Sure, if you would like to make it.
Make a motion to have the fire department have permission to open up applications to replace one firefighter at this time.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Any other questions for Justin? I do have one question for you. The medications that you guys have on your trucks, has any of that changed in the last year?
For the
Like the EpiPen or stuff like that?
how should I explain it? The pharmacy we went through no longer holds the permit for us to get it. So as of right now, we still have enough to get us through 1 or 2 uses of them. And then we're trying to look at different options how to keep the cost down and get them. So we're working with our medical director, Kurt Hoven, and just seeing different options. And as soon as I knew more, I was going to bring it up again, just to let you guys know as well. So we can still get it. It's just that the price is going to be quite a bit higher than what it used to be. So.
Can those items be tacked on to the transport bill?
Yes, the replacement ones, the EpiPens, as long as the ambulance service carries them, they will reimburse us for them. However, the glucagon, which we currently carry, they will no longer replace that use. So that's the main one that we're looking at. You know, it helped us in the past on the calls, and I don't want to quit carrying them.
Well,
So,
I believe you don't use that more than maybe 3 or 4 times a year, and but it does have a shelf.
right, yeah,
life, so
yeah, shelf life
I
of
don't
about a
believe
year,
that's
year and a
gonna
half.
be too much of a
budgeting item, really when you look at cost.
So, I mean, it's there when you need it, and I know there was a couple ones where it was very necessary to carry, so yeah, I mean, it's kind of outweigh the cost and everything, so. So yeah, I will look into that, and I'll definitely keep you guys updated on that.
Anybody else have any other questions for me?
Nope.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thanks, guys.
Your EMS report's also a piece of the last paper in the file if you wanted to read it. Otherwise, we'll move on to item D, which is Public Works. Gordy?
Good evening, everyone. You guys all we had the first snow event for the year, November 4th. We started using the new truck that day, and it actually worked out awesome, that new truck. Basically, it boils down to is our old truck, we had to set it up for whatever width of the road we were on. This one here, we can actually adjust the wing as we drive down the street for narrower streets or wider streets. So that truck worked absolutely awesome. This week, I plan on doing some more street sweeping yet before I put that away over in cold storage. I was talking next week, we're supposed to get some weather again coming in, so it's supposed to be cooling off, so we're going to hopefully have our stuff cleaned up by that time for the streets. Storm drains at that time are also going to be checked. We've got a lot of them are cleaned out already, but there's some more that the leaves did fall into for the last couple of days, so we'll be picking that stuff up as well. Aztec was in town the last 2 days, or last 2 days was in town. We did all of our crack filling.
Midwest Asphalt.
Pardon me?
Midwest.
Oh, excuse me, Midwest Asphalt, sorry. Anyway, they were in town doing the crack filling. This is where we were talking before, Dave and myself. The streets that we did the crack filling on this year, we're possibly looking at doing some seal coating on next year. Our local township also does it kind of like this way too, where they do 1 year, they do the crack filling, the next year on those streets we did the crack filling, they do the seal coating. So those are the things we're just looking at. I'll get you a map put together as to which streets that we did today and yesterday, and which ones we're going to propose to do the fog sealing or the seal coating on. And at that time we can make a decision as to if we should do it or whatever the numbers are going to come in as. So those are the things that we're kind of looking at doing right now. Dave and myself are going to be sitting down with these maps, looking at them a little more closely and trying to figure out this as a bigger plan. So that we're going to take a good hard look at that. Last week Monday, you guys all know that we had a major water main break. I wasn't bringing a piece of pipe in here, but it was actually kind of heavy. It was a 10-inch main, water main. It was on an elbow or a T, and the plug came out of the end of it. What happened was when they put the thing together, it's supposed to be rotted and bolted. Somehow either the bolts rusted off, and there was a plank or a 4x4 post stuck on the end of that plug, and that rotted off, and then eventually what happened was the water started coming out of it, and then all of a sudden it blew the whole end off of it, and then of course we had a 10-inch water main. Bloody. Good thing it happened when it did. Within 15 minutes we did have it shut down, but we did lose about 80,000 gallons of water. So we dropped the big water tower and the small water tower down by 18 feet or something like that. So I'm thankfully it happened when it did. It didn't happen when it was cold out there or overnight when, you know, nobody would have noticed it. So thank God it happened when it did. It's fixed. It's a lot better of a system that's in there right now. So like Dave and myself were just talking, he has seen this before where sometimes these metals that they had in these plugs or in the bolts at that time, for some odd reason they rust off fairly quick. I guess it happened over in Belgrade or something, where you've seen it before. So we got to start be vigilant as to our system. So that stuff was put in 92, I think it was, when that system was put in. So it lasted this long, but nevertheless we still have to start watching that. So that's kind of what's kind of going on right now. Like I say, the compost, typically the first of the month now we have it shut down. Being the weather is very nice, we're still taking stuff in yet. The dumpsters, one company came and picked it up because their contract is already done by the first of the month. So their dumpster is gone, but I've been dumping in local fields, so we're getting rid of the leaves, so we just keep it going. Along with that, with the snow ordinance, November 1st is also when we start doing the snow ordinance things, with no parking on the streets with a snow event overnight. So that takes effect, but like I say, as long as the weather is decent, we don't have to worry about that. So those are some of the things that are kind of like going on right now. Like I say, Dave and myself are going to be meeting with the street projects and different things like that, and also along with the neighboring township regarding what their projects for next spring will be. So maybe some of those things we can piggyback with getting better prices on. So but that's kind of in a nutshell what we're kind of doing right now. But yeah.
Mike?
Question, Gordy? Or maybe this is a statement that you would need to make with the people that they can watch this. The city has a lot of areas in and around that don't have curb and gutter, okay?
Right.
So I think it's advantageous for people, if you want to save your yard a little bit in the upcoming winter, please go out and buy some stakes and stake out your yard. So that will obviously help everything from people not having their yards ripped up constantly. And obviously it's hard for our plow truck drivers when there's no curb there. So I think just from a safety standpoint, that's probably a big thing to really push. Just go out and buy some orange stakes or buy something that protect your property, so.
I do go out and stake some of the stuff, some of the hazards.
Okay.
If there's curbs or something, I do stake some of the stuff, but I don't stake it all.
Right.
And I'm not offended by somebody putting something in their yard or staking in their yard. The only thing is that where we get to a 22-foot wide road and you have stakes on both sides of the street, eventually I'm gonna have to widen it out, so, but those stakes normally don't break. I can go over the top of them and I can widen it up a little bit, but at least the damage isn't gonna be on the yards. I hate doing that, and it's hard
I know,
on a truck.
it's hard not to,
Right.
but
Correct.
it helps a little, that's all.
Correct,
Just kind of
absolutely.
gives you a borderline of what.
Absolutely. So, knock on wood, this last snowfall, like Jason in the truck for 5 hours, and I was in the truck for 4 or 5 hours, and we didn't have much for yards, so that we hit, so thank goodness for that, so.
Okay, great, thanks. That's all I had.
Okay.
Any comments, questions? Anything else, Gordy?
No, that'll be it. Like I say, I'll keep you up to speed on that. As regards to the map that Dave supplied you tonight with, I did highlight a couple of them that residents that we did have issues with on those streets. And we can update that map at a workshop and we can show you where those troubled areas were, so.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thanks, Gordy.
Thank you.
There's no reader report tonight, so we'll move on to council report, EDA.
Our last meeting was actually canceled. We did not have a meeting. So we are obviously looking at hopefully being able to schedule one coming up on November 17th. I think we will continually hold it as of right now here at the arena, or are we going to go back to City Hall?
I would say here, if not virtual,
If not virtual, okay, so that
Yeah.
will be up to,
with the increase in cases.
right, and that'll be up to Tesla or whatever too, we'll figure that one out. But hopefully we should be looking at having another meeting on the 17th to discuss more things that we've been talking about. So that's all I have.
Planning Commission, next meeting is November 26th, pending.
Well, that lands on Thanksgiving, so if we need to have one in November, we'll have to reschedule it. And it's same thing kind of for December, it falls on Christmas Eve, so same thing there.
Something that comes up in between, you let us know. So.
Yep,
Yep.
I have given them some homework to start looking at their comprehensive plan at the first 3 chapters to start seeing if there's anything in there to start updating, but have them at least start reviewing the first 3, which is mostly intro, pretty simple stuff if needed for them to go through there. And then when we do meet, at least then they've had some time to review that and come up with any questions or concerns.
Our Corey Trail meeting is tomorrow morning at Rockville.
Rockville at 9 o'clock. The biggest thing that we're going to be looking at is looking at the time frame for the future construction. Obviously, with the LCCMR fund still sitting out there, we're not constructing this year anymore, and we're concerned as far as being even able to construct next year. So the engineer wants to meet with us to kind of lay out ideally what are we looking at time frame wise.
Item D, Tri-City Cable.
I'm gonna let our new guy here chat more on this, because he's the one who actually ordered it.
Hello, I'm Aaron Barker. I know some of you guys used to live in Richmond here. I brand new. I'm the new program director for Channel 10, which just started about a week and a half ago. But I have been working with Channel 10 since last spring, when the pandemic actually started. I installed how it all started is I actually installed the system in St. Boniface for their camera systems to be able to get the church out to people, elderly people or people that can't make it to church. And then of course COVID hit, so it became more of a need. So then I reached out to Brad, and we worked on getting the Mass live onto Channel 10 every morning. And so working with him throughout the summer, I became interested. He ended up wanting to retire. So I applied for the job, and I got the job. It's an interest of mine. I believe that this channel can be a really good community channel. I think it has a lot of potential. And when we were looking at it, what we do right now, the server that we have right now is actually pretty old. I don't know exactly how old it is, but I know when I called the guy, he said it's a really old system. I wasn't around, so I don't know when it was actually installed. But the new system will allow us to actually grab live stream events. So with baseball games, basketball games, football games, all this stuff being live streamed now, we're going to be able to capture that and put it live onto Channel 10, as well as stuff like this. This then moving forward would be live on Channel 10 instead of rebroadcast the next day. And actually trying to get more content onto Channel 10 and try to fill that up. And this server will allow us to do that without all of the hardware and monkey business that we have to do right now. So one of the first things that I did is I had actually asked for this upgrade, and then that's where we're at. So then they reached out for some help.
Right now, I have a quote invoice here, because you said you actually ordered it already?
I don't know if Chris actually ordered it yet,
okay.
but
Okay, so it's $13,290, and that's total for everything. Cold Spring, Wakefield, Rockville, and Richmond are all looking at putting money towards it. No one has set a set amount as far as what they're doing. We feel that this would fall underneath the CARES Act funds, so everyone's kind of seeing where they're sitting as far as that, and then kind of deciding what they're looking at. From my understanding, whatever's left over, Tri-City Cable's picking up, correct?
correct.
Okay, so not sure if you guys want to put a set amount, if you want me to see what the other entities are doing, or how you'd like to proceed, or if you don't even want to be a part of it at all. I guess that's kind of up to you guys on how you'd like to move forward with it.
Well, I believe we should be involved with it, but I believe also that maybe it should be divided about users. You know, I'm just saying if Richmond has 600 users and Cold Spring has 1,800 users and whatever,
Yeah.
could be equal for all entities if you look under usage.
And I don't know how easy it'll be.
That way it depends on how many people you cover rather than having a small entity pay a large amount to support the larger entity. So I believe the Channel 10 is only if you have cable TV.
Correct.
So basically that information should be able to come up through the cable system, how many users there are in each community.
Charter and Mid-Continental are the two cable companies, I believe, that we send it to.
And they should tell you how many users they
And
have in
Arbig.
each,
And
you know.
The thing is right now, what they mentioned with the CARES Act, if we have the 2263 left, why would we send it back to the county if this would be one way of us using all the money that we've been allowed? Why not give whatever we have left over, give it to them, whatever, because really don't, I mean, if we're gonna send it back to the county anyway, if we don't spend it, why not, at least we're spending it on our residents, whatever we have left.
But what happens if that's not enough? That's what my question is.
Well, see, whatever's left over, because no one has set any set amount. And when I talked to Bridget even too with Cold Spring, she's like, I'm looking to see what we have. I don't know if what it'll be. But like you had said, it's going to be the 4 communities are gonna put in, and then at whatever the remaining balance is, Tri-City Cable's picking up.
Right.
So what about the franchising fees that they pay to us right now? Is that, can we use some of that money if we wanted to?
We take our VIGs and it goes right to Tri-City Cable.
Okay.
Yeah, the city scoops it up and sends it out.
I guess I would like to see us at least give whatever's our CARE Act money left, cause that's only 2 weeks, and that money's gonna disappear either way. And then if they need more money, and let's say, like Pat said, even if we figure out that everybody pays a certain portion, if we have to divvy out some more money, then we have to figure out how much that's gonna be. I mean, right now, I just wanna make sure the CARES Act money is being used up and not sent back.
Well, it's a good way to use it. I think Richmond, obviously, you know, it's important to have that particular service, you know, especially how things are going now, and to be able to live stream meetings. I think I've actually had a few people call me once in a great while and have been looking actually for the televised meetings and haven't been able to find them and stuff too. So to be able to live stream it at that time, that would be, then they would know that it's always at this set time. So I think, yeah, it's a good usage of our money. There's no question about it. It falls underneath, you know, where we would need to. So, yeah, I'm okay to use the remainder of the CARE Act money for that.
I think it's something that I think Tri-Cables, as in the past, has always been looking for money or needing money. And if it's, like I said, if it's coming and we have left over, I think it's a good opportunity, like you said, Mike, to go and help everyone.
Yep, exactly.
And I think in the long run, with the other communities, I think, you know, like I said, working with them and trying to get some more, you know, trying to work out in some kind of whatever they have, and at the same time help and put money into the funnel would help and get some of the equipment or things that we need to update what we have in here anyway.
Do you want that in a form of motion?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll make that motion to use the remainder of our CARE Act money, which is $2,263.14, to help pay for our portion of the Tri-City Cable server.
Can I ask you that you don't put the dollar amount in there? Because if there ends up being more money left over, why wouldn't we give it?
Well, you have to allocate something, don't you, in a proposal?
Well, what I'm saying is if let's say something else here
Well,
drops.
he's saying of the CARES Act money. If
Of the
they-
CARES Act money, if something else falls
The
through.
balance of the CARES Act.
Just the balance.
Just
of
use the
CARES.
balance of the CARES Act, okay, then let's go that route then and
That way it
rephrase
allows
that.
her to give more if there's more.
Okay,
money
the
allowed.
balance of the CARES Act.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So I get what you're
I-
saying, but even if we spend more, I'm still gonna have to come back to you guys to say, where do you want me to take it from?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But once you get that number, then we'll know that.
I do have one other question for you. When you're talking about Channel 10, is there any way to get the Stearns County meetings that you can actually listen to them? I've watched them over the years. There's some days that it's really good. You can hear everything they're talking about. And the next time you can turn the TV as loud as it goes and you can't understand a word they're saying.
So that's one of the things that I'm working on is there's a lot of projects that are actually going on. We're actually looking at actually putting cameras in some of the local churches as well. Working with Father Matthew there to try to get some, working with River Life and get that stuff. But that's one of the things that I'm trying to do as the new director is come around to these meetings to check out quality of stuff, to check the cable connections, hook up, see if there's a way we can do it better. So I've got about 6 years experience in this. I've been doing it for, I don't know if you know, but I run the Vex Robotics across the state of Minnesota. So we've been live streaming those events for years. So my goal is to learn first and to go to all these events and see the setups and see if we can't improve on it. But yes, that is my goal, is to get nice, crystal clear audio, good pictures in all of these events.
But there's a lot of times on the county meeting that they talk about certain subjects, and if you go on their website, you can, scroll through what they're talking about that particular meeting, and it's like you punch in to listen to them, and also you can't hear half of them talking, it kind of defeats the purpose of it.
And some items, like I believe that one, they do it and they send it to us. So I'm just gonna have to talk with them and work with them to see what we can't do, and maybe it's me going out to their meeting sometime and saying, hey, we can do it a little bit different and provide some feedback for them. But yeah, I do want to get, like I said, I want to fill up Channel 10. I want to make it become a community channel again, where the people have a purpose to turn to that channel again. So, all right, thank you.
That's another matter of concern. November 13th, at 3 PM, we'll have a virtual council meeting to canvass the election results.
That's still tentative, but that's what I'm planning as of now. I'm still waiting to hear some feedback from the county. On the 13th, it's a Friday. I'm seeing if anything has changed on their end, that maybe we can do it sooner, since I realize that there might be people out of town with the last weekend of deer hunting, but that's why I put on there virtual. It should literally be about a 5 to 10 minute meeting. It would only be approving the resolution to canvass the results. So I'll keep you guys in the loop. Obviously, I'm gonna have to post it 3 days before because it's a special meeting, but I'll keep you guys posted.
And the second thing is November 19th is our next council meeting, which will be here at the arena, correct?
Yep, that's the plan until you guys tell me not.
Pat, you have something to add?
Yes, I had a citizen ask a question. Since we invested a lot of money and got grant money for the trails to school and the trail around the park, is that gonna be plowed so people can walk it during the winter?
Haven't we always cleaned up the safe routes to school and, oh, we haven't? Okay. Is that something, do we have equipment to do so?
We don't plow that.
Safe routes?
They were wondering why not.
Because
Because the investment was there, they would like to use it as a walking trail during the winter. I said, I don't think it's too much of a high priority, but I don't see if they have time why they couldn't do it.
And a lot of times, if we do have the time and the equipment available, we will hit it up.
like we did this last time, but like when the snow really gets heavy on the Chain Lakes Fire Department with it, there's actually a culvert there and there's actually about this much water that sits in there. It's.
That water goes over the trail?
Pardon me?
That water
Yeah.
goes over the trail?
It does go over the trail.
It's a flat, the trail isn't sitting on the ground, so it isn't.
Well, yeah.
And there's
It's
a
also a
culvert.
real drifting issue. We could go out hourly when the
Yeah.
wind's blowing out of the north, try to clear it. It's a tough area to clear. We do try to clear that large sidewalk portion in front of the residential area.
That we clean.
That we
That's
keep
always done.
clear.
But they wanted to walk the trail all the way around
Yeah,
the park.
yeah.
That was the intent of the question.
If we have the opportunity, we try to do it. You know,
But like now, this time
usually the
around,
last thing we do though is we're clearing snow.
right. The safe routes to school part of it, by the departments going all the way through school to church and all the way to Catholic school, those we do all the time. They are cleaned all the time.
That would be the west side of the park.
But the west side of the park, like right now, for example, we hauled snow and we couldn't drive in the grass, so we piled all that snow in the park, right where that trail is. It's buried with snow right now. Piled.
That was why it came up.
Yeah, and we.
Because they wanted to walk it and it,
Well, that was unusual though. That's the first time
That's the
we were
first time we
able to
had
do
to do
that. It was too soft to take that snow to the school site. So that was the alternative, or across the street here. We just felt that if it was across the street here, we were gonna have to move it again. So that was the site where we decided to put that snow.
And typically the park is shut down, so that's why we put it there.
well,
We did.
because of the sliding hill, the park should be open for, they would like to use their kids in the sliding hill, they would like to use walking the trail themselves. So,
We can look into, working on that more diligently.
Good idea.
Yeah, we,
Anybody else have anything else to add for this evening? If not, thanks everybody, meeting adjourned.